Hi, this is Professor Sills, and I wanted to debrief you a little bit on Activity 1.2 out of Exploring Tropical Cyclones. And I know from speaking with a couple of students that you've had some challenges in getting this software installed. Trust me, it's worth it. It's great software, and even though it's vintage, there are ways of installing it that aren't very hard. You're looking at my C drive. You can see that right here up top. And if you take a look at this folder, I named it ArcView. It could have been named anything. This is the entire series of files that I copied over from the CD-ROM. So when I put the CD-ROM in, I just copied and pasted the files. Inside the ArcView folder is the AV32AVC file, which is, as you can see, the application. Now, if I right-click on this, this is just kind of reviewing what the instructions were for getting the installation done. When I go to Properties, what has to be done here is under Compatibility, you need to check this and make sure it's set to Windows XP Service Pack 2. That makes the installation run smoothly, and it will ultimately put an ESRI folder onto your hard drive. It actually puts it directly on the C drive. It doesn't go into the Programs folder. Now, with that said, let me close this out. And I did not apply the patch to my install, so it seems to be working fine without that. And I'm running Vista Service Pack 2. So if I go to my programs area here, and I go to all programs, I can scroll down to my ESRI group, and I then select ArcView Virtual Campus Edition. The little spyglass here is what I'm looking for. It launches. I'll just click try. I'm good for 120 days. And we're going to open an existing project. And what I'm looking for is under the C drive. Remember, I had this under ArcView. And if I go to Tropical Cyclones, here's my project, cyclones.apr. So you see the pathway that I followed. This now opens ArcView. This wants to update, and just say yes. And now I'm at a point where I'm in the manual on page 11, and I can just follow the instructions. It tells me to go to the global patterns and open that, and I can make this full screen, and I can make this full screen. Now there are a couple of things here that I want you to be aware of. This is called the view. These are called themes. The theme is active when it is highlighted. Now 30 degrees latitude longitude is active, tropical cyclones is active, and tropical cyclone basin is active. You see how it's highlighted. If I check this, I'm turning on the theme, so I'll turn off the theme. Alright, so let's get back into the instructions. One of the first things it wants me to do is open up the Hurricane Andrew movie. And if I go here to the movie projector and click on this and select Hurricane Andrew movie, I have previously associated .mov files with Apple QuickTime. If you don't have QuickTime on your computer, make sure you either install it from the software that I've given you, or that you purchased, or you can simply download it from apple.com/QuickTime if you want the most up-to-date. I'm going to update QuickTime here, the setting to loop, and I'm going to click start. And of course, if I want, I can make this large. And what I'm asking you to do here is there are two tropical cyclones that I want you to track. One is Andrew, and you can see Andrew moving through Florida and up into Louisiana and then looping. And here is the other one. So identify the patterns that you're asked to identify here. What is the general motion of flow or travel direction that the storm takes over time? And what kind of circulation do you notice around the center? There's portions where Andrew is in the Gulf and has a very well-defined eye, and you can see very clearly the circulation. You've got some other questions here asking you to identify general patterns, like what happens when the storms make landfall. So that's pretty much the story with the QuickTime here, and I would encourage you to go up against the current storms, Igor, and there are two more that are forming in the Atlantic as we speak, and compare your notes. Go to National Hurricane Center. Go to weather.unisys.com and compare and see if you can see whether or not the current storms are following similar pathways to this one. Okay, getting back into your view, notice that you are also pointing out, I'm looking on the lower column on page 11, how to read coordinates. Like, for example, if I'm over here in northern New Jersey, I see I'm looking to the upper right, minus 75.76 and 40.08. The minus 75 means 75 degrees west, where negative is west and positive is east. And the lower number, the 40.08, is your latitude. That, since it's positive, means 40 degrees north of the equator, whereas minus 40 would be 40 degrees south of the equator. So be aware of how to read those coordinates. So moving along, you're introduced to some additional tools. You have up here the zoom tool, and if I zoom in as I'm instructed to, I can begin to take a closer look at these tropical cyclones. How do I know that that's what they are? It says so right here. If I use the pan tool, I can pan across and it will automatically update my view. If I use the measure tool, I want you to, if you haven't done this, and of course feel free to stop this video at any point and explore it for yourself, but to get to the measure tool, go right here, and you'll notice when I scroll over it that a highlight comes up telling me it's the measure tool. If I click on it and I then click once and bring it down to a second point, I can now read in the lower left hand corner a length in kilometers, and you can see it's around 1,000 kilometers is what I selected. But follow the instructions and make sure you've done what it is that they're asking you to do. They're also asking you to identify where symmetry in number 5 exists and offer hypothesis in number 6 as to why that may or may not be the case. I'm double clicking to deactivate the measure tool, and now I'm on page 13, and as I do a whirlwind through this, it shows turning a theme on and off, which I did before. So I'm turning off tropical cyclones. It wants me to turn on the basins, and it wants me to activate them. When I activate them, I can now use the Get Info tool, which is this little eye here, activate it by clicking on it. And then by clicking in an area, I had a failure. Well, I got the information I needed. By clicking in this area, I got the tropical cyclone basins. The name of it is the Northeast Pacific Basin. It tells me storm rotation. It tells me number of cyclones per year. And it tells me what we call them, whether it's a hurricane or whatever. So you're asked to do that to fill in all the information on the chart on page 13. And again, this is work that you need to keep on your own and then compare it against my answers and what I'm sharing with you here. You'll find commonality in number 8 to all tropical cyclones in the southern hemisphere. You'll find that you can identify the name of what we call these storms that hit Japan and realize that they're all the same. I mean, it's just semantics as to what we call them. But there's certain parts in the world where a hurricane is called a typhoon and where a hurricane is called a cyclone. We obviously call it a hurricane here. Number 10 is asking you to identify circulation, and you can again get that information from the chart. Well, moving right along to the last page of the activity, page 14, it asks me to actually massage the data, and I'm going to turn off tropical cyclone basins. I'm going to turn on tropical cyclones. Now, here, all the tropical cyclones are green, but one of the advantages of a geographic information system is the fact that I can work with data and I can analyze that data visually, and it's a very, very powerful tool. And know this, ArcView, even though it's been 10 years since Esri made it, This is still used by a lot of schools and a lot of professionals. ArcGIS is a great tool, and I've used it. That's the more modern tool, but ArcView is still in a lot of use, and a lot of people are going to a lot of lengths to keep it operating in Windows Vista and Windows 7. Anyway, you'll notice the instructions on page 14. I'm just going to follow them straight down. It wants me to double click on the theme, and I can then load a predefined data set or a way of looking at the data. I can go here into data, and if I go to seasons.avl and click OK, it's going to show me that what's in blue is in the Northern Hemisphere winter. What's in green is in the spring, Northern Hemisphere spring. What's in red, and notice I'm specifying Northern Hemisphere, is in the Northern Hemisphere summer, and what's in orange is the Northern Hemisphere autumn. And all I got to do is click apply, and look at that. I can minimize this, and you can begin to identify some patterns. So that's something, and I'll go to the pan tool so I can pan across here. And you can really begin to identify what's going on with some of these patterns. I can return to a full extent by going to the full extent tool and see the entire globe. Really kind of colorful on top of everything else. So use this tactic, this strategy, to be able to answer 11 and 12. With that, I'm going to leave you on this, and we'll pick up a little bit further with some additional information. All right, thanks, and I hope this was helpful to you.